All right, boys and girls, we're going to take some notes today. We're going to work some problems. We're going to start with practicing multiplying by powers of 10. Powers of 10 are 10, 100, 1,000, because we're multiplying 10 times 10 is 100. 100 times 10 is 1,000. 1,000 times 10 would be 10,000. So when we're multiplying by powers of 10, it kind of, if you think about multiplying by 1, where the numbers don't change, when we're multiplying by powers of 10, the numbers don't change. We may have to add some zeros in, but the numbers themselves do not change. They stay the same. Okay, we're going to work some examples. I want these examples written in your journal. We have 32 and 6/10 times 10. We have 438 and 9/10 times 100. We have 72 and 863 thousandths times 10. We have 3,286 and 2/10 times 100. And we have 4,294 times 10. So write these all down. And then we're going to go over them. I'm going to talk about each one specifically. So you'll listen. You'll always have this video to go back to. And I can't see. Why don't you make me the only screen you see? And that way it'll be larger. So you should be able to see it.
Screen, and then you double click it.
Yeah. Just double click on my screen and my screen will take up the whole page. So you can see. Plus I'm going to post this on the tube of you. Alright. So my instructions say we multiply by the powers of 10. We move the decimal to the right, the same as the number of zeros. We move the decimal to the right, the same as the number of zeros. So for example, we have 32 and 6/10 times 10. We have 1 0. So this decimal point is going to go to the right 1 time. So it goes from between the 2 and the 6 to behind the 6. So then my answer becomes 326. Now, since the 6 becomes in the ones place when I move the decimal point, I don't have to include the decimal point there. I can, but it's understood that the decimal is always behind the ones place. It's understood that it's always behind the ones place. If it's not written down, find the ones place, and it'll be just to the right-hand side of the ones place. Now we have 438 and 9/10 times 100. 2 zeros, which means we need to move it to the right 2 times. However, we have a problem because there's only one number behind the decimal point. Elizabeth?
Can you put a 0?
I can put a 0. I can put a 0. Because that's like having this number here and adding 0 hundredths to it. Well, if I add 0 of anything, it doesn't change it. So I can put a 0 if I'm moving it 2 places to the right. Once is behind the 9, twice is behind the 0. So then my number becomes 43890, or 43,890. Again, the decimal's not written because it's behind the 0 and the 0's in the ones place. I could put it, does not change the value, but I could put it there if I wanted to.
Mr. McMurdo?
Yes.
Is that comma behind the 3 or behind the 4?
It's behind the 3.
Okay.
Because I have my ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s. Okay, we look at my next example. 72 and 863 thousandths times 10. I have 1 0, I'm going to move, and this only works with tens, hundreds, and thousands, so keep that in your mind. Tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s by powers of 10. 1, 0. So I want to make this number 10 times bigger than it is. So if I multiplied 72 times 10, it would then become 720. So I'm multiplying this number by 10, and to make it 10 times bigger, I move the decimal point to the right one place. So then my decimal point comes behind the 8. Instead of the 2 being in the ones place, the 8 is in the ones place. So then I have 728 and 63 hundredths. That's 10 times greater than 72 and 863 thousandths. 10 times greater. Okay? And like the one Elizabeth helped me with, okay, this one we're multiplying by 100. 100 has 2 zeros, so I need to make this number 100 times bigger than it is, which means I'm moving my decimal point twice to the right. And as Elizabeth pointed out, we need to put the 0 there. And so if we move it twice to the right, then my ones place is this 0. So then my answer would be 3, 2, 8, 6, 2, 0. So 328,620. All right, now this lovely number here, we have 4,294 times 10. So since I'm multiplying by a power of 10, I need to move my decimal point to the right. And as I look at it, I don't see a decimal point. So Amara, can you tell me what number's in my ones place in this problem?
Right now, it's a 4.
This 4. Okay? Again, if the decimal point is not written down, find the ones place. And my daughter in 3rd grade is finding ones places, so I'm sure you guys can do it. You can move the decimal point. It will always be behind the ones place. Since we're multiplying by 10, as Elizabeth told us a minute ago, we can just put this 0 on there without changing the value, because that's 4,294, and then I add 0 tenths to it, so I'm not changing the value. But if I multiply it by 10, I'm making it 10 times bigger. So then instead of 4,000, it becomes 42,000, which if I multiplied 42 by 10, then it would become 420. If I multiply by 4 by 10, it becomes a 40,000 number. That's another reason to estimate. Okay, so let's do some more. Multiplying by powers of 10. I'm going to write them down. And as I write them down, I want you to work them in your journal. Let's go. 8 and 63 hundredths times 10. $75 and 285 thousandths by 100. $31 hundredths times 10. And 15 times 100. So I'm going to give you a minute. I want you to do that. Remember the notes you have over here. That should help you identify which way you move the decimal point and how many places. So I'll give you a minute to do that. This is a decimal point right here. None of these have commas in any of the factors here. Not yet. They probably will in the answer. Okay, so 8 63/100 times 10. We're multiplying by a power of 10, which means we move the decimal point one place. If I were to multiply 8 times 10, it would be 80. That's 10 times bigger than 8. So I'm multiplying something, if I just look at the whole number, 8 times 10 is 80. So I need my answer to be somewhere around 80. And I move my decimal point one place to the right, so it's close to my answer. 86 3/10. We look at this one. 75 285 thousandths times 100. Okay, I'm multiplying by a power of 10. That power of 10 has two numbers. If I multiplied 75 times 100, it would be 7,500. So my answer needs to be somewhere close to 7,500. That'll tell you, if you estimate first, please estimate first. For the love of Pete, estimate first. Because I can tell when I look at your answer. So if my answer should be near 7,500, that'll help me when I get to my actual product and see if my answer is somewhere close to that. Multiplying by 100, which means I move my decimal point once, twice, so now it's in between the 8 and the 5. $7,528 5/10. Okay, this one. I have a 0 in the ones place. Okay, so this is a small number. This is less than 1/2. Less than 1/2. If I multiplied 50 cents, or a half a dollar, times 2, I would get $1. I'd get one whole. If I multiplied it by 2. If I multiplied 50 cents times 10, I would get $5. So my answer, based on my estimate, my answer should be less than 5. Because if I multiplied 5 times 10, 50 cents times 10, or 5/10 times 10, I would get an answer of 5. This one, I'm multiplying 3/10 times 10, so my answer should be around 3. Because I'm multiplying a number that is less than 1, so my answer is going to be less than 10. Because this factor is less than 1, my answer will be less than 10. Less than the second factor. 1 0 to the right one place, and I'm going to get 3 1/10. 3 1/10. 15 times 100. Jacob, I don't have a decimal point in this factor. Where's my decimal point in this factor?
You don't have one, so you can put one behind the 5 and add zeros behind the decimal.
Good. The 5 is my ones place, so I put my decimal point behind the 5. As Elizabeth and Jacob just said, I can add zeros behind this if I want, and without changing the value. It's just like this is $15 and this is $15. It doesn't change the value. These are worth the same amount. So this is worth the same as just the regular 15. I'm multiplying by 100. 100's a power of 10 because it's 10 times 10. If I just took 15 and multiplied it by 100, it would be 1,500 or 1,500. So that's where my answer needs to be. 2 zeros, 2 places to the right, and my answer is going to be 1,500. Okay? This is what happens every single year. I teach the kids this. They say, that's awesome. This is really going to help me. And then in 2 weeks, they never look back at it. And later in the year, when we're multiplying by powers of 10, they're like, oh, this is hard. So please remember this. It will help you. I promise. I promise, promise, promise. Because that's the bottom line. Because Mr. McMurdo said so.